Hello, I am Brandon, the humble host of Actual Play Broadcast. This will serve as an introduction to our broadcast for the time being. As we record and publish more, it shall change. We are still getting things set up, so apologies for any errors, skips, or silence that may occur. Everything will be smoothed out in due time. Please enjoy our broadcasts of various RPGs, and remember to tune in for more every week, as continuations or new adventures will be posted at such times. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
And we're off. Hello, everybody. Well, I mean, the recording's on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of APB, Actual Play Broadcast. Today we are playing Eclipse Phase, 2nd edition. I am running us through our continued humanoids out of time, as calling them human at this point would kind of be a misnomer due to the nature of transhumanity.
I mean, I
was a transhuman before.
Still, yeah. I think we're technically the most human that anyone could be.
The Flats would have an argument with that. The Jovians would like to have a conversation.
Yeah, they weren't born before everything. They can eat my whole human ass.
Oh, I started out as a transhuman, so
Yeah.
Hey, I get it. But it has been some time. Who wants to give a recap?
God is dead.
that's just
We made the things that killed him.
Yeah. And then they killed us.
Humanity's in space. We've learned some more about that. Well, Osborne met his granddaughter. Says something. She's also fucky wucky in the head with weird fucky wucky mind powers.
You got a friend.
Yeah.
We got a friend in me.
We all are we were asked for our orders for more. So we've put in our orders for that stuff. We also were informed we were going to be getting little AI, but not AI, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Little buddies that are going to be in our heads, I guess. Not to be confused with consciousness, but they're going to be another voice in our head to help us read emails, I guess.
It can help perform a variety of tasks, especially if you find yourself lacking in the interface skill.
Yeah, this is from Osborne's point of view of, like, I guess it's a secretary. Shrug.
Secretary for your brain.
And yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of chatting with people. Well, robots and some of them, I guess, were in like pretty human type morphs. So one of them was a robot.
But you were also given a visit by the local, definitely not arms dealer.
Totally legitimate businessman.
I mean, on an autonomous scum swarm,
They were.
it is legitimate business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business as usual.
Oh, excuse me. But said, come on by and we can take a look at getting you geared up so you're not just running around naked. And if you want to run around naked, that is your right. But if you want to have some actual gear to go with your stuff, and he's willing to accept credits. He's unlike the majority of the swarm, he does also operate in credits.
That's nice. Because we've got a lot of those.
You do have a lot of those. More than you probably know what to do with. And totally not more than your GM knows what to do with.
Yeah. I hope not. Our GM gave them to us and all.
Who's to say? But it has been another, say, 3 weeks since last we all had an interaction with the swarm. You've begun other trainings. You're being taught more about what's going on in the world. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go around the table, this virtual table that we have. I'm going to just start at the top of the list. So, Liana. Why did I say Liana?
Well, I'm Morgan
Yeah.
in this game.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, wait a minute, I'm a fucking idiot.
Liana is way out of time.
Yeah, way out of time.
Really?
Morgan.
Hey, maybe this is another one of the tapestries out there.
Maybe. Oh, God.
Yeah, we're doing a meta universe game.
If there are infinite tapestries, then it's statistically likely.
Listen to Altfair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
also do that. I'm sorry for spoilers.
A cross promotion.
Okay, we're going around the table to do what now?
So, Morgan, you have been taught a myriad of things. You covered most of your basic skills and most of the skills that you have. They've promised to talk about Titans and what led to that and how that's played out. But what is something strange about this new world that you want to know about?
Well, I don't know who I'd be able to ask about this, but I would like to find someone who can teach me more about psi abilities.
That will come later. You were told by the good doctor that he has lined up someone.
Oh, okay. In that case, honestly, a lot of it just be adapting my current skills to current technology. So I'm sure that will take some time.
But no, this isn't nothing what do you think is an out of the box question? It's just how does this work now? Or what about these kinds of people? What about this? What's happened to this?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I am not good with being on the spot like that.
So you just continue your standard training. It's just nothing.
Yeah, if I think of something, I'll ask someone.
All right. Go down to Mako.
Yes.
You also doing your standard fare, getting trained up and caught up in the skills. With Simul Space, it's very easy to start picking up where you left off. Many of the concepts that were around have only slightly changed. There are a few things that are drastic, but those are typically not fundamental and change your entire perspective of how your craft works. But what is an out-of-the-box question that you would have about the solar system at large?
Okay, trying to remember exactly what we learned in our first sessions after I got hit by work.
We kind of got a general overview of now.
Mako probably would ask about, just the general status of the Earth sphere in general, what the hell is going on over there right now, and also she, on a personal note, would just be very fascinated in how they build all of this so quickly, like morphs and equipment and etc.
Okay. So two-prong question, two-prong answer. The individual that you work with, they are well known in the I wouldn't say reclaimists, but they're an ecologist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as part of the Titans' attack on all of humanity at the time, they took action in sabotaging communications and poisoning the Earth overall. various chemical weapons that were made but never meant to be used, using fractals and things that we still have difficulty comprehending to poison the oceans and the air. Various exurgent viruses and other just bewildering and frankly uncomfortable methods of just murder on a scale. We had a very basic form of backups. It wasn't as efficient as it is today. But when the fall occurred, people were generally beheaded and their minds uploaded into data banks that we don't have access to. The Titans took them when they left. But they wanted to make sure that there'd be no survivors on the surface. They tried to do the same thing to Luna and the Moon, but Luna, the Moon, and Mars, and various habitats on Venus, but they were far enough removed that many of them escaped serious damage. Although they do bear their own scars, there are entire exclusion zones on Mars, and many more on the Moon. But for the most part, Luna might as well be the Earth government, despite the fact that there is no longer an Earth to govern. Anything that tries to enter or exit is blown out of the sky.
Oh, thank God we were in the air before that.
Yeah.
Blown out of the sky by remaining Titan things or by us too?
Giant beams of plasma
Us.
that we have, like various satellites that we have put in orbit that are meant to just fry anything that gets into its range.
Is there anyone that still lives on Earth?
No, not really. If they are, their everyday life is a struggle to survive and a battle of the inevitable. But considering it's been almost 20 years post after the fall, I can't imagine many live, if there are any. And each of them have to fight horrid machines that designed specifically to hunt and kill people. Just wastelands of inhability. Various things left behind by the Titans meant to subdue, kill, or worse to the transhuman body and mind. Earth is an exclusion zone. The reclaimists say that we can take it back with enough firepower, enough time. There are many who don't believe that the resources and time put forth to that effort are worthwhile.
Wouldn't enough firepower just destroy Earth even harder?
Yeah, you'd have to be very careful about how you go about reclaiming it, and that's a whole mess of logistics that some people just don't think is worth the time and effort.
Well, that's part of what reformists like to call on people like myself for. If we stop just short of glassing the entire planet and leave fertile soil, or fertile enough soil, and find a way to cleanse the toxins from the oceans, terraforming it would be much easier than, say, that of Mars. although efforts on Mars are proceeding, it is slow going. Whereas Earth, in theory, could still be fertile. Hell, there are parts of the Earth that are still lush and green. Just look at the Ozarks. Luckily,
the Ozarks survived.
well, not many lived there.
Yeah. Fair.
So it wasn't a primary target. That doesn't stop various machines from probably having wandered in there, but they weren't blasted to hell.
Good prime vacation spot.
Well, my primary concern is moving the terraforming of Venus and Mars. That way, such an option does not have to be even considered.
I'm curious how terraforming developed.
Well, funny enough, you're next on the list.
Yeah. Well, my ultimate bigger curiosity, given everything we've talked about, is more of I heard mention of alien worlds, and so the concept of xenobiology is very high on my interest list.
One moment. Mako, is there anything I did not answer there?
The construction part, or yes,
Okay.
Oh, yes.
My bad.
No, you're fine. I was moving too far ahead. I was like, I forgot something. I forget. I forgot what I forgot. But as for production, most things are produced using fabbers. I believe the earliest construction of those could actually be traced back to around your time. Although most of the time you were just working with plastics.
Like 3D printers?
Yes. Plastics, resins, things like that. The technology for that was fascinating and started to advance. We got it to the point where all you need is raw carbon. Stick a block of carbon into a fabber and have it produce anything else that is carbon-based.
Doesn't that run into... What if you need to construct something out of more limited materials that just carbon can...
There's specialized fabbers for that. It's just that carbon is the most common.
Oh. Is this like Star Trek replicators?
More or less, that's how fabbers function, yes.
She actually meant it. She says that like amusingly.
There's also nanomachines that help with more fine detail if need be, that can sit there and construct from the material it's given.
Makes me think of the 3D printers in Prey.
I'll pretend to know what that is.
Old Earth video game.
Brandon will pretend to know what that is.
Old Earth video game.
Okay. Did you
I actually really want to play. It looks
It
good.
was a Ubisoft game where you
Prey.
played a space station. Yeah.
I
was
thought you
Ubisoft?
said Bray with a
Oh,
B.
No, Prey. They had the 3D printers, and you had to collect carbon and stuff so it could create whatever the hell you wanted.
Yeah. But if you need anything on a larger scale constructed, those are usually made in shipyards out in space. It's not uncommon that the asteroid belt is used for such a thing. There are many stations and places carved out for that intended purpose, or even for some people just to live in isolation. They are fringe thinkers mostly.
Let's see.
It's Matt, right? Matthew?
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, what is something like you've going through your basic training, going through catching up on how things function? What is something interesting or you think would be out of the box that you wanna learn more about?
I mean, xenobiology. I heard alien worlds and alien organisms and shit like that, and that is immediate interest.
So, and you're gonna speak to a biologist. I will push my glasses up. I believe you wish to speak to me. So we discovered what we would call gates. The Pandora gates. They you
Oh, kind of like the box.
that depends on who you ask. We first discovered them not long after the Titans had disappeared. And around the same time, we met the first intelligent, sapient alien species. They call themselves the Factors. They are gelatinous. They are mostly just slimes, just this puddle of goop.
Yeah,
They-
you mentioned, or somebody mentioned that they like communicate through smells or something.
Yes, they do not have standard speech. Made communication on first contact difficult, but yeah, we managed. They warned us not to touch the damn things, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. So, two of these gates, one on Mars and one way out in the outer rim of the system.
Pluto, right?
I believe so, yes. We sat there, pumped enough power into it, and got it to react. It took some time to get the gate open for more than a moment, but once we were able to do so, it became a matter of just fiddling with the controls and configuration of the system until it reacted and opened up a gate in which an individual could walk through. Finding an identical portal on the other side, they found themselves in new worlds. Now, not all of these worlds were hospitable. Many had their own xenofauna, but we have yet to find another civilization. We find signs of a previous civilization every once in a while, but it doesn't seem like they ever made it to the spacefaring part of progress.
Got great filtered, I guess.
But we are able to go there and explore. There are some small research colonies out there. Mind you, opening a gate is a lot of power and energy. So if you want it open for an extended period of time, you are going to have to pay for that cost. Going through a gate is expensive. But they are... Oh, what were some explorers back in your days? People that were well respected.
The astronauts.
It's rather mundane now, don't you think? But I understand.
I mean, you got to understand, 300 years ago, we still barely gotten past the moon.
Fair. But now, for such configurations, you could be. These individuals are those who go trekking and exploring these new locations and being the first ones in. The canaries in the mines, if you will, are typically allotted as stars. Those expensive. They can usually be sponsored, and corporations are one to sponsor if it means that they could get first dibs at any resources or claims that could be found there. But it is my understanding that you and yours are not exactly wanting for cash. So you may not need a corporate sponsor if such a thing appeals to you.
You know, you might be onto something there.
But so far, the only civilization that has made contact with us are the Factors. And
Okay, well, the only sapient contact? I assume there's other xenofauna and flora.
Yes, they're the only civilization. They have their own
Fair.
home world, and they actually do participate in trade with them to a degree. Raw resources is something that every civilization could use.
I can imagine that it's difficult to chart. Do you know where gates dump you out? Or, like, they still in our galaxy? Is there a way to tell that?
No.
So when you go through a gate, you're just kind of hoping the gate doesn't close because there's no way you're going to be able to even figure out what direction you're going.
It's a very dangerous job, but you can get very famous from doing it. That's the entire point of these exploratory teams. They're the first one in. They're gate crashers. They're the first ones in. They explore. They give us readings, and they come back, hopefully. And
I remember
essentially make use
at least briefly mentioned that these were probably left by the Titans. I guess, do gate crashers deal with Titan stuff?
So, I mean, many are trained to deal with such things because this isn't necessarily, we don't know if they were created by the Titans. We have no solid proof of that. It's a theory because we only found them after the Titans left or disappeared or died or whatever happened. And the factors told us not to mess with it.
Okay. But you guys are anyway, or do they mean past just turning gates on?
They didn't say outright, don't do this or we won't cooperate with you. They said that it would be ill-advised.
Okay.
Maka Callias raises her hand a little, or whatever.
Yes.
How does it? So, as if I understood correctly, the Titans was a distributed network.
To a degree. There were several Titans, as many countries vied to make the next superintelligence. There wasn't just one singular Titan.
Yeah, and it makes sense that if it was a defense supercomputer or whatever, it would be distributed to prevent it from you being taken out in one single attack. But how does something like that just vanish?
We don't know. That's why we're all terrified of the potential return, and we are doing what we can to prepare for it.
Given some of the things it sounds like they're doing, creating exsurgent viruses, turning people into fractals, etc., among other things, I don't know if it's too far-fetched to say they got to the point where they were manipulating reality.
Yeah. Forgive me.
I don't know what's weird now.
It's been a long while just absorbing everything. I forgot, when they said turning people into fractals, do they mean like the infinite math picture things?
Yes.
That's horrifying. Yeah.
It is. They break them down bit by bit into their base components, and the person usually feels it the entire time until they are nothing.
Yes.
Wait, even post-fractalization?
Well, we've never been able to communicate with one post-fractalization. Most people usually just sit there and burn it from the whatever area it's in or space it.
Fair.
Do these you call them vectors, right? The aliens?
Yes.
Do they have some sort of faster than light travel?
From what we can tell, they have some form of it, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't function the way you'd think it would. Primarily, it's also, from what they speak, not efficient. The amount of power that'd be dumped into it to try to travel at that speed is not well suited to how they function. They don't have to worry about dying of old age. They just kind of exist for centuries at a time. So they just focus on their communication, their ability to communicate back and forth. But the form of faster than light that has been discovered is not conducive to one's survival. Most things that move at that speed are generally atomized.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also, depending on how far and where you're going, trying not to hit anything on the way. You ever seen the simulations of what a grain of sand does to a planet when it hits it at light speed? Imagine that with a ship.
I mean, I guess technically the chances of hitting something are low, but not impossible.
I mean, eventually you'll hit something always, right?
It'll hit some particles, so there might be some ablative things that you need to take into account.
Oh, that's true.
But
I imagine stopping is kind of hard too.
it depends on how it works, I guess. And they recommended us to not use the gates.
They recommended against using it.
They don't use them.
They don't talk like they do.
I assume the gates are faster than light.
But they're clearly aware of them, and you know that, and there's something about them that they don't recommend us using it for.
Correct. They're aware of them. They don't recommend us using them. And is it faster than light? Technically, yes.
I mean, teleportation is faster than light travel, so
From what we've been able to surmise, you aren't necessarily moving in space, or you're not moving in time. You are. The gates kind of fold space on itself.
Yeah, I assumed it was a wormhole type of situation. But
yes.
But it gets you there faster than you would traveling normally.
Correct. But we do what we can to kind of see what's going on. We'll throw a bot in, take a look around, see if, we're opening up underneath water, if we can see the stars, if it's a completely barren volcanic wasteland. If it looks promising enough for us to explore, we will get gate crashers to go in, take a look around, see what they can find, and come back.
That begs the question. If you open up a gate and it leads to somewhere that is under, I don't know, water or a methane ocean.
Oh, no.
Yeah, once you open it, is
Or
there
a
anything
star.
you can do to close it, or what if something dangerous is on the other side?
That begs the question: why does things flow through the gate?
They can.
I mean, like atmosphere.
To a degree, it's odd. For the most part, water is contained. Water doesn't pass through the gate. There are some trickles here and there as the tear in reality itself between the two locations are rather well contained. Some things can seep through, but for the most part, the only things that can push its way through are other beings.
Huh. So it does have some sort of, I guess I would call it shielding.
Yes. And I would also recommend, if you wish to go look more into gate crashing, there is something called a blue box.
What's that?
It is our attempt to replicate the gates. However, we can only ever get it to work to come back to a certain location. It
Yeah,
can.
that still
So, yeah.
sounds really good for insurance.
So you have managed to make something out of it. At least.
Yes, it just doesn't work the same way. It's an emergency exit at best. At worst, it's a shiny blue box that we will find on your corpse. But as long as you're backed up, you won't have to remember dying. Or you can if we recover your stack and you want to.
I feel like remembering dying is not a great thing.
Depends on who you ask. Some people value the continuity and knowing what all has occurred. The issue is that remembering your death means remembering everything that led up to it. And some people don't want to lose that, especially if they've gone a long time without a backup.
You might learn something from that too.
Oh yes, you'll most certainly learn how you died. The bigger issue is that individuals that typically try not to do that run into a different issue where it's lost time, or what is colloquially referred to as lack. Whole stretches of your life, experiences, memories, anything that you formed within the times of your last backups are all gone.
That does sound unsettling. There's,
Good.
there's still, I guess, it's a philosophical question about whether you're a copy or not. In that case, it came up a little bit when we were first putting in cortical stacks, but I mean, given that was post copying entirely, it was kind of irrelevant for us since it doesn't matter if we are copies of an original person or not. But it does matter when you're talking about in the future doing so.
It is a philosophical question whether or not you are the same person when you go in for a backup and when you come out. I have my own personal take on it. If you would wish to hear it, I'd be happy to explain.
Sure.
The primary argument as to you not being the same person is that you are no longer the you that went in, you are a different you from before. Now, mind you, you recover your stack and upload your memories. You now have two sets of memories. One that contains memories of you going to retrieve those memories and those experiences, and one that ended. Now, at a certain point, you can ask the question, well, does this create a new consciousness? And no, as if you were to go and grab a newspaper and read information that you did not, if you were to go grab a piece of data and look up the latest article on something that you had no idea about that was happening on the other side of the world, how is that any different? If you are in the same, if you're still the same person philosophically, so your own mind, how you perceive things, how you think, when you go through these processes and everything occurs and you come back out relatively unchanged other than new memories and experiences, are you still the same person? I would say no. You are you had you not lost that time. You're never the same person. You weren't the same person 5 minutes ago when you before you asked these questions.
I guess to me, it's less about being the same or different. Like, it's not about whether I've changed or not, but whether I die and cease experiencing things and a new copy of me is made to then live in my stead.
And then I asked the question, did you recover your previous memories? If the answer is yes, you are no different.
I suppose. But what about even...
Go ahead.
Even with something like farcasting, where it's just the data from the cortical stack being moved, right?
Correct.
Even that is just, unless things have changed, making a copy and deleting the original.
you're not making a copy and deleting the original. You are just moving the quote unquote original.
Well, that's what happens when you move data.
I would just take what is here and
suppose.
transmission it elsewhere.
I guess I'll give it more thought. I'm not trying to like tear apart how things work and just
No, just I imagine it's a matter of perspective.
yeah.
Indeed, it is, like you said, a philosophical question.
There's no particularly right answer.
For many don't
That's
care. many
I mean,
many
I
are.
guess-
Oh, good.
I guess if you're born into this era and live with it forever, then it makes sense.
Oh, many are happy to be able to function after the fall. Is I think the big thing. Those questions were asked a lot when backups were first introduced, and being able to receive and change your body at a whim. But after the fall, such questions became less important. Unless you're a Jovi. But when you make your entire identity around the idea of shunning progress and technology that is too advanced for civilization, whatever that means, then some ignorance is to be expected.
I would tell people to touch grass, but I'm not sure if that's applicable anymore.
Hey, depending on where you are.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's still around.
There are some habitats that have, greenery in parks. We don't really have it on the Swarm because there wasn't really room for it. These were ships meant to voyage the stars very slowly that we use to escape the demise of the Earth with, and have just been getting by.
I assume it's expensive to keep a habitat that could support plant life and have like a park or something.
When you're not connected to a corporation, you have to fend for yourself, as we do. Yes. Many parks on many habitats are funded by a corporation as their promise of some sort, or a way to market to ecologists and or reclamists as well. It's tiresome.
Yeah, it really seems like it.
Some folks do view greenery as a luxury, but that's neither here nor there. And you, Sir Osborne,
Yeah.
did you have any strange questions that you wish to ask? Anything that you want to learn more about?
I think I'm more curious after all this very dense metaphysical and scientific talk. I think I'm more interested in how people are getting by these days. How do people live? How do they entertain themselves? All that.
Well, entertainment is typically the use of vids and various AR games. So nothing that should be, the medium's a little different from your time, but it's much the same. Many people enjoy a good drink, various recreational drugs. Some old drugs have been enhanced. The orbital hash is a favorite among many here. Some things that have changed though is sports. I believe it is called. Oh, there were two sports called football, but I don't know. I don't fully understand why.
One was played with your feet. The other, I'm not sure why actually. The other one was called football.
Yeah, they were kind of regionally named. As someone from the region of the newer football, I have no idea why it was called that. None of us know.
I see. Strange for sure. But when you have very little that you have to worry about in someone permanently dying or being permanently injured or maimed, basic sports don't do it for you anymore.
Oh, that's fair. Gotta go sicko mode.
Indeed. Now, mind you, it is typically frowned upon in more polite habitats to have death sports where a individual is killed in its no blitzball.
Yeah.
Why we have
Blood Bowl.
horse that can live underwater?
But
You probably can play Blood Bowl, actually.
yeah, but when you are essentially immortal, just functionally immortal, what's wrong with a little hardcore violence? Some of us find it distasteful, but others eat it up. You've ever, I believe, an ancient civilization by your standards had this thing called the Colosseum.
Oh, yeah.
Many of the tales that were told about events in the Colosseum are done nowadays. Xenofauna that was captured is released on an individual armed with only a knife. Individuals go toe-to-toe trying the damnedest to maim or kill the other. There are even some games where they sit there and, similar to this new form of football, instead of tossing a ball back and forth, it's more of a game of hot potato, and the potato is a grenade.
Holy shit.
Oh, well, they have to do other tasks, such as putting themselves through a hole in the wall in a particular shape, form, or fashion, or pitting a number of uplifts against a exalt morph. It can get truly barbaric.
And people are just chill with that.
Well, when they're not actually dying and not staying dead, and the stacks are easily recoverable, and the only wound they have is the wound of their ego and a loss that they incurred. Yes.
Yeah,
that's fair.
all right, I guess.
But there are some classics. If you're more for games of the mind, chess still played, both 3-dimensional and standard 2-dimensional. There is also mahjong and poker. Mahjong is very popular in some of the Venus habitats.
Right.
Never actually played Mahjong.
I imagine a lot of the mental sports don't really change a whole lot.
They typically don't need to. Although more has been done to limit cheating.
Oh, that's fair.
Typically, if you have many casinos and other gambling houses won't let you play any of the non-purely chance games if you have certain mental augmentations.
No playing blackjack if you are able to play 12D chess.
More or less. If you're with many mental enhancements, if they can find the wear on you, they will outright not let you sit at those tables. But you're more than welcome to play at slots or any of the roulette.
Well, I actually have a weird question. And feel free to just not have the answer, or say it's a gray area. What's the distinction between I'm mentally augmented versus I am just a savant at this thing?
Oh,
Can you be too good to be allowed to play even if you're not augmented?
Oh, they'll scan you. As you enter these gambling houses, many of them will scan you to see if you have any wear on you. If you have any mental boosting wear, they won't let you sit at those tables. If you're naturally gifted, well, you're naturally gifted and they can't really remove that.
Okay, so like the rearrangement of neurons that is BioWare for your brain is distinctive enough to still be like found
Correct.
or distinguished, I should say. Okay.
As typically such wares have not necessarily a serial number attached to it, but have a way of being identified.
Hmm.
Someone savvy enough in the creation of morphs could scan your body and tell you what wares you have installed and who made them.
Okay.
Is
Uh,
it rude for people to scan other people without asking?
typically, but also it's not unusual for you when you're walking into places with increased security or with particular rules where they will scan you as part of entering. If you want in, you get scanned. They don't really
Yeah, I think
ask
they'll just do
permission.
that.
They'll have checkpoints for it.
So mostly you know ahead of time if it's going to happen, at least.
Correct.
Yeah. You're giving your consent to be scanned generally one way or another, whether it's implied by going into an area or verbal, I'm giving you permission.
That doesn't stop.
Yeah.
That doesn't stop individuals, things like T-ray emitters, from scanning your person, seeing if you have a gun or if you have any particular augmentations on you, such as your arm being a gun. So generally, if people are curious about what augmentations they have, it's polite to either ask. Most folks typically won't say yes to being scanned unless they're at a checkpoint. Just because, well, who wants to stand still for 2 or 3 minutes? That way someone can find out exactly the latest augmentation that you bought.
Fair.
But Osborne, did this satisfy your questions, or did you have anything else in particular that you wanted to know about in forms of recreation?
I'm sure I can pick up more of it as time goes on. I was just kind of curious on the big points, but I suppose people being effectively not at risk of death, a lot of form of entertainments are different.
Actually, speaking of it, we have a number of individuals on our own swarm that like to fly some of our caster ships. It'd be inaccurate to call them fighters through obstacle courses. Is a form of
Piloting always seemed cool, but back in our day, you kind of had to chase that ship from 5 years old if you wanted to do that.
Well, some people have a knack for it. Others will purchase skill softs. They could upload the skills into their brain. It's not a substitute really for actually knowing how to do it and, learning, but it can come in handy in a pinch.
Well, we have a lot more lifespan now, so you don't really have to chase something from that earlier in age anymore.
Indeed.
Is aging a thing?
Yes. All bodies still degrade naturally. Some faster than others, depending on where you source them. A number of corporations do enjoy dangling the carrot that is a physical body to many of their infomorph, wage slaves.
That's fucking
Do they have like
terrifying.
planned obsolescence on some of their bodies or something?
They do.
Oh, that's just disgusting.
It is. That's why
Yeah.
many of the infomorphs that do earn themselves a body do everything they can to keep it, whether that be turn to a life of crime and make as much money as possible to buy their way out of such a situation, or making themselves important enough to where it'd be inefficient for the corporation to have them go through that process. But many simply hit the obsolescence date and get dumped back into the pool, and the carrot is dangled once more.
Okay.
That's kind of fucked up, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sure is. What about our minds? Does any aging or problems with that?
For the most part, no. I mean, mental disorders are still around, especially for individuals that survive the fall. PTSD is a problem. Many go through psychosurgery if they want the problem fixed quickly, where either those events are changed or even entirely removed. Psychotherapy is still a thing where an individual can work through their problems naturally, but like I said, a number of people don't have time for that if they just recently got themselves into a body. The faster, the better.
The problems might be too big.
Indeed. If a problem becomes a key part of someone's personality to where it kind of stands as a keystone that many of their other personality traits are built upon, removing that kind of makes the whole house of cards collapse.
Yeah, don't touch that. It's a load-bearing mental disorder.
It was an interesting thing for us to learn that was a possibility when we were first working in that field.
The load-bearing poster of your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually in such cases when, after we first discovered that could be a possibility, many either seeked ways to get around that by implanting different personality traits and, to a degree, completely rewriting the person as a whole, or just pruning it.
Do they ever do that to people involuntarily? I mean,
Criminals
they trap
do.
people in.
The corporations, there are some instances where that have been discovered, and those are usually taken care of because it hurts their bottom line. That doesn't stop it from being a thing that could potentially happen. An individual could also consent to such a thing if they find it to be.
It's fine.
Yes, if they find that that core is not how they wish to live, then they can just completely have a ego change. It's not common, as we circle back to the philosophical question of, are they still them?
Yeah.
But the idea of psychosurgery and psychotherapy have advanced quite a lot from your time. Mental disorders are not stigmatized as much. Certain disorders still have a stigma attached, such as psychopathy. Typically, those actually are the ones that end up having the hardest time being treated.
Yeah, I could see that.
Are they hard to treat because they're stigmatized, or?
No. There were cases in which that was being treated, and this was after we figured out that if it's a core part of a person, then they're not really the same person. There were several cases in where we cut out the psychopathy, or what would be their trigger for that, essentially, and the ego started lashing out. They became hateful, spiteful, despite a number of things being removed that would cause such things to drive them. Heavy experimentation was done with it, but removing psychopathy is difficult. We're already talking about an advanced form of neurosurgery. Depending on what all is removed in the treatment of that, you could just make someone go berserk. Now, mind you, usually we try to save a portion of what was cut out off to the side to see if it needs to be reintroduced. If the individual changes drastically and not for what they desired when they went in, we would replace it and we would fit it back in and try again.
It does seem like a really delicate process. I can see why it would be difficult.
Yes. Cutting out like triggers for PTSD is one thing, but it's different with more social disorders.
I imagine it's also more difficult to remove something that is hereditary or, otherwise it's just part of someone from the beginning rather than caused by trauma or something.
Those do prove difficult to remove, only because typically the individuals don't realize it's a problem until well after they've built their life experiences on it. On or around it. So it can be difficult. However, if it's simply just a matter of, for example, like ADHD, it's easily treatable. Especially with psychosurgery, you get the chemicals in the brain to balance out at the optimal levels for the individual, and it's gone. It's done.
Oh, now, that's good to know.
The biochemistry for that depends on the morph, depends on the person, depends on what they're looking for. That's where you start getting into particulars. But were there any other strange questions that you feel like needed to be answered?
So since we've really only met a fairly small sample size of people, it's been hard to tell how common are modifications to morphs beyond standard, I suppose, especially things that will noticeably change how a morph looks beyond what would be considered humanoid. Is that something that's going to stand out a whole lot in public?
It's
pretty common.
You will stand out to a degree, depending on how drastic the physical change is. You will stand out. If it's simply modifying like your nose or your ears, it's not massive to notice. If you are completely changing how the body looks, that's where you start entering territories where you'll stand out, which some people like to stand out, and that's fine. But other individuals, especially if they're wanting to keep a low profile, find it best to stick with the baseline. Or because making such modifications can get expensive, especially if you are one to go traveling between the various planets. Because you're not able to take the morph with you, you'd have to send the schematics ahead of time. That I'd had to grow it, buy it, and then modify it. It gets expensive.
Okay.
But again, expenses. Again, expensive. Not a thing that you have to worry about.
Yeah. My main worry right now is just the type of work that I will probably be doing might sometimes require me to kind of be able to blend into the background. So I want to make sure I don't go too far out with what I ordered.
I mean, I imagine they'll work with you. Again, you're on a scum swarm. So most folks like to do a little bit of peacocking here and there and try to be the strangest one on the ship.
Oh, that does sound kind of fun.
It can be. I think every solar cycle we do have a parade of some sort. Not a parade in like the traditional sense, but you get what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of people on the Scum Swarm, do we have any people who are stuck as infomorphs involuntarily because of their financial means or anything like that?
We have a couple, but we have a couple that are infomorphs, but most of them were sleeved biologically, and then an accident happened, or one thing led to another, and now they're an infomorph, and they're working on getting the reputation for them to get sleeved. They're sleeving here on the Scum Swarm. We don't do the planned obsolescence thing. We actually go through great lengths to make sure that those are removed.
Oh, I did mean to ask about that. That's good to know. So if I order a morph from elsewhere, that can be fixed if need be.
Typically, usually if you are going to a location, you will not be given a morph with planned obsolescence unless you specifically request it. Because you are renting a morph out. These are things that are meant to be used over and over and over again between different users. Your stay isn't expected to be permanent. You could get a permanent one put in a body bank for you. That way, whenever you return, you could use that morph. But I wouldn't be surprised if things got desperate. An individual might be willing to pay more to use the morph you designed to help them get around. Body banks can't exactly be picky depending on their clientele.
That makes sense. What I was going to say, though, is that, I mean, if anyone is just completely lacking a body, then, I mean, I seriously don't mind just getting some for them. I mean, that sounds kind of terrible.
The issue is that you have credits. The Swarm primarily operates off of a rep-based economy.
Yeah. Well, I don't have to buy it from here, right?
Well, we are currently out in the middle of space. We aren't scheduled to stop in at a station for some time.
I see.
And for the most part, earning a basic morph doesn't take an individual too long or too much rep.
Oh.
These individuals probably were in a accident that involved two ships accidentally colliding with one another, or a disagreement between individuals that led to gunfire.
Yeah, something that caused them to lose the only morph they had at the time.
Correct. So
Is
they
that
might
very common. Oh, sorry.
They might be working towards something a little bit more bigger, tougher, maybe something different. And it's not necessarily a common thing to happen, but it does happen.
Oh, I meant like, is it common for someone to own multiple and switch between them a lot? I know it sounds like it can be difficult to do that.
Some do. Some do have that. Usually they earn up enough rep, or their own morph designers, and they get that specially made and put off to the side. They try it out once, and they shelf it, and then work on the next one. There are all kinds. Think of it like owning a car. You can own a really beat up car. I believe they're referred to as beaters.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Or you'd have a person who'd own a Bugatti.
Bugatti.
Bugatti. Yes. Or Mercedes Benz.
Mercedes. Okay, we're gonna have to work on your old English.
You have to forgive me. Many of these corporations that existed did not necessarily survive the fall, or just became something entirely different.
McDonald's
in the
still
future, it is
exists.
pronounced Mercedes.
Mercedes.
That one is a people name sometimes too. So
I've heard it like
That's-
once as a person name.
yeah, it's not very common.
Does McDonald's still exist?
Probably.
No,
Should they find a way?
I'm surprised.
I don't believe it's McDonald's anymore. If that is to more further answer the question. Most corporations during or after the fall kind of consolidated into individual organizational structures that had different groups. So they may just now be part of one of the many corporation subsidiaries or one of their many branches, but they wouldn't be McDonald's anymore. As copyright law became quite complex, actually, if you think about it, and the way that started to function, if we're just going to skip past that, as he starts to ramble on about copyright law after the fall.
Yeah, I imagine that is a messy topic at the best of times now.
At the end of it, I'll just be like, well, it's fucking strange that bodies can be copyrighted. I mean, I guess if they're sold, it makes sense, but
It's the genetic code that's copyrighted. It's the reason why most individuals are not allowed to produce offspring. Those are just blocked. Now, mind you, it doesn't stop.
the genetic code.
Sorry?
Because you're like using that genetic code to do it.
Yes.
It's like the like crop brands back in our world, owned by companies and not being allowed to spread.
Yes. And it's, there are ways around it. It's we on the here the autonomous have managed to bypass the majority of the systems that would allow that. But, some people don't mind having those in place because that means they get to have sex as much as they want without fear of producing a child.
Yeah, it's definitely a benefit.
Seems
So, how prevalent is, I guess the closest term I have, jailbreaking?
yeah.
I would ask if you're a narc, but I know that you're not. It's
Yeah, I'm a cop.
Send forward in
You're
time.
laying in wait to
Okay.
fall.
Yeah, it was a real deep undercover operation.
Unfortunately, the case went cold just a little bit before the fall happened.
many researchers in autonomous. Their entire job is to sit there and get access to the latest and greatest new corporation piece of hardware, software, or what have you, and then jailbreak it.
At least that time-honored tradition still is alive.
Oh, absolutely. Most Favors aren't made to produce guns that can, fire automatic weapons or even produce various plasma and laser weapons. However, if you're able to jailbreak it and bypass those safety protocols, then you have no problem. You're able to make yourself a plasma weapon or an automatic laser rifle, what have you.
Interesting.
Are there any more questions?
Well, probably a billion of them, but
Yeah, we'd be here all year.
Then I believe with that, I believe you all should be getting your muses here soon. I will say, Morgan and Osborne, Dr. Archimedes did let me know that he wished to speak to the two of you. Something about your blood tests. If I swear to God, if he accidentally poisoned those morphs or gave them a genetic disease, I will read him the 3rd degree.
No problem.
Well, there's the hope.
I hope we would have noticed if we'd been poisoned.
Well, he's a good doctor, but he can be a little absent-minded at times. But off you go, all of you. I need to convert the lab, and I need to start making some painkillers.
I
Right. Off to the good doctor then.
Yep. So all of you exit, and the two of you make your way to Dr. Archimedes. I have probably called him 6 different names in the 3 sessions that we've had.
you might have 6 different names. In fairness.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll remember Dr. Archimedes. I keep trying to find my notes on him, and I always just refer to him as the good doctor. And, that's just not helpful, Brandon, from the past.
Yeah.
He's the first guy we met, right? When we were still in
Yes.
the Summer Cape?
The chimp doctor.
Yeah. I don't think his name was Dr. Archimedes before, but
Nope, no, I'm not
I don't know,
about to
maybe
go
he just
back
has
and
a lot of
listen to
names.
it to find out. So I'm just making note that his name is now Dr. Archimedes. I'm a professional. I definitely do this a lot.
no one's paying us right now, so do we really have to be held to professional standards?
No.
It's not our profession.
We were never going to. That's the joke.
Yeah.
So if you make your way to Dr. Archimedes, the rest of you go off and wait for a call from David Cortega, the head of IT security who is working on your muses.
Okay.
As the two of you arrive at the doctor, he gets a hold of you, gives you directions to one of the more residential parts of the swarm. So you do have to get into a small shuttle to go between ships. But in there, you find yourself in one of the larger ships, and in that hall, you find him waiting outside the private home. Oh, good, you're here.
Yeah. They said you had our results in.
I do. More importantly, I found someone for you to talk to.
Oh,
All right.
A mutual contact has is what has brought this boon. So, the two of you feel free to ask as many questions as you need to get comfortable with your situation, and you'll see where we go from there. And he presses a button, and you hear a bing bong. And a few moments later, a individual opens the door, a young woman who one of you recognize.
I see.
Everyone, meet Carly. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello. It is great to see other afflicted, we'll say, for now. Thank you, Doctor. I will take it from here. You may go. No problem. If they ask anything that exits your realm of expertise, feel free to call upon me. I will. Have a great day. The two of you, come in, come in. I got vodka if either one of you are interested.
Oh, pass for now.
I'm good, but thanks.
So after he leaves, she gets you all and shuts the door. It's a small room, really. It has a disheveled bed at one end with a port view that looks out into space. A desk with various pieces of electronics and potentially even robotic equipment that's scattered on it. Looks like she has like her own little work desk. A couple of chairs and a what you can tell to be recently cleaned table.
Okay.
So what do you want to know? I imagine that all of this has been very jarring.
Yeah, definitely. I guess with our situation in particular, are there any harmful effects that we should know about and prepare for? Like, should I be worried about anything, any side effects or?
So I don't know if you have been using your, we'll call them abilities often. But whenever you do find yourself either using it either intentionally or intentionally or unintentionally, do you ever hear something else in the back of your mind? Something else, not necessarily words, but it may be instruction or a new drive that you didn't expect.
A little bit, I think. At first, I thought it was just anxiety, but it goes a little further than that.
Tell me about what you hear or what drives it imposes upon you. I might be able to tell you what it is.
I feel worried about things around me, people. Mostly worried that something bad is going to happen, or that someone is going to do something to me, even when it doesn't really make any sense. Sometimes I find myself doing some mental gymnastics to make it make sense.
That is interesting. I'll have to do some thinking on that one. And what about you, Osborne?
Yeah, it's about. It's like these urges, the need to do certain things. Sometimes it's following after something. Sometimes it's a urge to protect something.
I see. Well, yours is likely what gets called the xenomorph.
All right.
It's a little alien, and sometimes you can act a bit weird with it. There's another form of it that's, the other form of it's called the beast, but that's more violent in nature. Typically.
See.
As for you, Morgan, I'm not seeing.
She's actually just lost power.
Yeah.
Oh, well, God fucking damn it, Bobby.
Damn it, Bobby.
All right, now I'm gonna. This is where I vamp. No. This is actually where we'll jump people until she comes back. As for Mako and Matt.
Yep.
The two of you are making your way down like the thoroughfare of the ship that you're all
Making your way downtown.
Yeah, well, it's not a town per se, but yeah. You're making your way, but going through your section of the ship to get back to like your guys' collective quarters at the moment. You see. Well, let's see what you see. I'd like the two of you to roll me a. I believe it's still called perception in this game.
All right, since it has been like a month, I need a little refresher. What to roll?
It's perceive.
It's perceive. Right. Yep. You are going to roll a D100, and you're playing blackjack with your skill.
Yep. And the higher you get with that blackjack, the under your skill still, the better.
Yep. The thresholds are 33 and 66 for.
Yep. Well, that is pretty perfect because my threshold is 40 and I got a 36.
All right. Ooh.
That's not pretty good.
Oh, no.
You can spend an insight to flip it if you wish.
Or a flex.
Or a flex.
Sure.
And so I assume 29 is still under for you, right?
Perceive, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have 45, so yeah.
So the two of you are making your way, and both of you notice, like just out of like the reflections on various surfaces, that an individual has been going in the same direction as the both of you for a bit now. Now that's not necessarily like odd per se. I mean, everyone like there's only so many ways to travel to get to certain parts of the ship, but they've been there for a good like 5 minutes.
Are they like trying to stay out of sight?
They are definitely like seeming like they're trying to like be far enough back to where you aren't going to notice them. But you've taken notice. As for Matt, one thing you notice is that this individual is very much very plain. It's plain morph. It's bald. You potentially male or androgynous, just like gender neutral morphology. It's in basic clothes. It doesn't like it. You're tempted to say burner. It looks like what a burner phone would look like if it was a body.
Okay, so it's meant to be kind of nondescript as hell.
Yeah, it is nondescript as fuck. So that stands out to you.
Mannequin man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just kind of, I guess, message mentally. Is it Mako or Mako?
Mako.
I'll message Mako. We got a stalker.
I see him.
Looks very specifically nondescript, so I imagine that is not coincidence.
Mm-hmm. Should we confront him or?
Your call. You want to?
We could just like pass around the corner and try like step out when they get closer.
Okay.
See some, try to find some sort of corner or something. Like just see that we casually like walk down the corner and try to basically step out when they get closer.
Gotcha. I'd like the two of you to give me a That's it. It's athletics, it's free fall, infiltrate. Give me an infiltrate
All
roll.
right. I'm not allowed to make it.
¿Por qué?
I believe it is one of the skills that if you do not have ranks in it, it's your total is 0. At least that's what my sheet is showing me. But that might not be a thing. I don't remember. It's been a hot minute.
Infiltrate is a skill that you have to have trained. That is correct. So
Then I can't pull that maneuver
Neither can I.
then
unless you're saying otherwise.
then I want the two of you to give me. What's it based off of? It is based off of reflex. Give me reflex times 3.
Okay.
I would be generous.
It'd be nice. Thank you.
Just blunder away. Nope.
I'm going to use a flex to swap that and make it a 57 under 60.
Okay. And what about Mako?
I fail.
Do you want to use a flex or a vigor?
We are in our normal are we in our like?
I don't think we're in newer morphs yet,
You're not in your newer morphs yet.
but we still get stuff from like even just your standard flat.
Yeah, sure. Let's use the other flex that I have.
So the two of you.
Oh no, flats don't give anything.
Yeah, they don't. But the nature of being PCs, you get.
Yeah, we still have flex.
Yeah.
Shit.
So, two of you swiftly turn a corner and kind of stance up, ready for them to follow. And as they turn the corner, you're looking them dead in the eye, and they kind of stop for a moment and just stare at the two of you.
What's up? Where's the chocolates?
Is there something I can help you with?
I mean, you've been following us for a hot minute. Unless you're a secret admirer, I think that there's something we can help you with.
I'm not sure I know what you mean. I'm just, simply headed to my dorm. If the two of you'd like to make a kinesics roll, you could figure out whether or not he's bullshitting you.
I am absolutely going to. I'm glad I put 40 points in this.
Is that also one of those that you need to be trained?
No.
Cool.
Shouldn't need to be. Hey, is 40 points enough?
It is if I flex it. Fucking, we'll go for it. Kill myself. So
Team-
that's or 50.
So what is defaulting on such a thing?
That would be you are just rolling your aptitude.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not even the times 3. Ooh, you don't get there. I mean, hang on. Actually, I need to roll. See if he's fully telling the truth to you or not. So, Mako, I mean, he could be. Yeah, sure. You could believe that. As for Matt, you're looking him up and down, and like you are watching his face. He has perfect control over his face. It's his hands that are kind of like making you nervous because they look like they're twitching a bit, like they are on a hairpin trigger. So you don't know if he's nervous. You don't know if he's armed, but something is off. You're not sure if he's telling the truth or not, but there's
Does it look like he's armed? Like, do I see a gun?
You'd have to give me another perceive.
I'll go for it. Yeah. What's the worst I can roll? Do fucking jack shit again?
Critical failure.
Yeah.
If you roll 99, that's not good for you. That's not Pog.
No, I'm not gonna make that. That is definitely over my perceive.
You don't see that he's armed.
Mm.
Um,
I'm gonna glance at Mako for a brief moment, and then I guess I'm going to real quick over the mesh to the doctor that's been our general point of contact.
Dr. Archimedes? Yeah.
Yeah. I just sent him a quick message. Stalker's common on the scum swarm. Well, in person, I am gonna just shake my head. If I see you again, there's gonna be a problem.
So you're not used to doing these two things at the same time. You're still getting used to it. Give me an interface roll.
Absolutely. So, I don't have points in interface.
Roll cog.
I was thinking of doing something similar, actually. So
if it's base cog, I don't make it, but I don't believe I crit anything.
If it's
want me to roll as well?
But if it's an aptitude check, I do make it.
It's gonna be base cog because you're defaulting. If you want to roll as well, yes. Because the two of you could send the message independently of one another. That's not an issue.
Because she has interfacing 80, so you know. But I failed too.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You critically failed.
Oh, that is a critical fail. Doubles crit.
Yep, doubles are crits. So an 88 is a critical failure. So whereas Matt, you try sending the message, but it doesn't quite come out right.
Damn it, I signed up for porn again.
No. The 88, what were you trying to send to Dr. Archimedes?
Yes, basically say we have a stalker.
You say that locally, and you send it to the guy in front of you. You send that message, realize that it's not going to the right person, and you see his eyes go wide, and he turns and bolts. What do you do?
Let's see.
I mean,
try to tackle him to the ground.
Oh. All right. Give me a
athletics.
It'd be more melee.
Okay.
Go time.
Defaulting on that.
I'll let you do. I'll let you do. Psalm times 3.
Nope.
You go to run after, but he is wily.
I'm gonna follow up since I see her just straight charge.
Are you also gonna try to tackle?
This is go time.
All right. Roll melee.
Are you fucking kidding me? No, 98 over 60.
You trip over Mako, and he is fast. Like you were looking at him. It's a very plain morph, but it was built for speed. Apparently, it is going.
Mako lets out the few curses and just goes like, "Oh fuck."
Fucking. I am still not used to this shit.
No, neither am I. Let's send a message.
That couldn't have gone worse. Well, I guess it could have gone worse. He could have shot us or something.
And now that she can actually focus, she focuses on sending a message to the doctor and saying that we have a stalker, and she messed up sending a message, and he bolted.
I'm gonna try to send a message very carefully to our other two companions, to let them know, hey, watch out for intentionally nondescript people stalking you.
Okay. Dr. Archimedes goes, that is odd, actually. Said nondescript, just androgynous and bald.
Yeah, like they looked like they were like the most generic person ever.
I will let Steele know about that. That is odd.
Is there? Why would someone stalk us like that? This is because we're.
That's a good question, and one
Maybe it's because we're rich.
I mean, that's only known to a select amount of people, unless all of you have been talking about it out in the open.
No.
No, but if someone is getting what can I only assume are pro stalking morphs, then they may have information.
Well, their mistake is that they're on an autonomous swarm where people like to let their freak flag fly in a generic morph, in a nondescript generic plain morph. They're going to stand out
aggressively nondescript.
Yeah, they're going to stand out far more for that reason. So I'll let Miss Steele know right away, and she can look into that and potentially track them down.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm all for fans, but I'd like my fan club to be visible.
I'll have her route your way right away.
Yeah. Oh, and he, in case it matters, he was very intentionally like trying to pretend it was coincidence he was nearby.
I see. Well,
so it wasn't a I'm your biggest fan type deal. Also, he was twitchy.
Interesting. I'll let her know. She should be in contact with you here soon.
Cool. Thank you.
Marcus looks up a little. Do you think he was armed?
He didn't look armed. I specifically actually like glanced over him for that, but I didn't see anything.
Oh.
That said, it's not like it's hard to conceal a pocket knife or a shotgun arm, I suppose.
I mean, he can have a plasma cannon in his chest for all I know.
Yeah, he might have weapons I just don't know to like look for in my 21st century brain.
Pulsar blast.
He foot dives us to death.
Yeah. Foot dive. The two of you are actually sent receive a message from Sarah Steele very promptly. Stay where you are. Do not chase after the assailant.
Aye on the first part, failed on the second. Sorry about that.
Are you still chasing him?
No, we just tried to tackle him on the initial burst.
Okay, that's fine. As long as you're not still chasing.
Yeah, but, no, I'm not about to walk into an ambush.
I'm rallying up people in the local area to be on the lookout. You all get a message that pops up on your AR displays. The description of the individual that you gave, and rep awarded to the first person to give location. Additional rep for detainment.
Can you take photos with the mesh?
You can.
Cool. That's something.
Maybe next time we should do that.
Mm-hmm. Can you record video and audio too?
You can. You can get most of those sent out, especially like when you're inside a podmorph. In biomorphs, it's a little more complicated unless you have specific augmentation.
Yeah.
But you can like capturing like a picture and sending it's not too difficult. It's more like the sharing of your experiences is a little more difficult. 5 or 10 minutes later, Sarah arrives. They're still looking for him in the area. You haven't seen him since?
Nope.
Uh,
At least that would count. Hell.
Yeah, she's again in a steel morph, but this time, last time we saw her, she was like in a nice outfit and didn't look visibly armed. She has a massive pistol strapped to her side.
A big iron on her hip.
Yeah. Well, when she is the law, and she was called for law, she's ready to go.
Does she have spurs to jingle, jangle, jingle?
Well, she just jingle, jangle, jingle. She doesn't necessarily have spurs because she is again in a steel morph. Robot. Did they say anything to you? How'd you figure out you're being followed?
I noticed on the reflections, he was following us for a little while. We decided to very specifically turn down this hallway, and he showed up right after. I confronted him about following us. Specifically, I used the words, "Where's the box of chocolates?" And unless you're in my fan club, you probably it seems like you'd want something from us. He played dumb.
I see.
I looked him over and I didn't see any weapons, but he was very twitchy in the hand area. After I tried to do a bit too much, he got flighty and bolted, and then
I accidentally sent him a message that we were being stalked.
yeah. We kind of escalated things like a couple of clowns.
Well,
I expect some hiccups to happen while we're getting used to all of this.
Yeah.
Well, I reached out to Ortega, have him take a look at the local mesh and anything that was recording. See if we could see what they were up to before and after. One moment. You see her eyes kind of light up. Well, good news, bad news. Good news.
Yes, they found him, but he's empty.
Yeah, he somehow got a kill switch installed.
Oh, that was not what I was expecting.
So
I was just kind of expecting, like, oh, they found the body, but there's no consciousness inside. What a twist.
Well, that is true.
That feels a little bit more heavy duty.
does that mean that there's not from this swarm then?
We haven't had anyone physically come on board. A kill switch isn't a hard thing to install. It's not normal to have.
Well, I mean, I guess could he have come from where we did?
I mean, you were the only ones we pulled on board, and
there weren't any other, like, I don't know, like something that resembled a consciousness on a computer or something?
No, not at all.
Okay. At this point, I'm just kind of grasping at straws. Because he was very specific, and that seemed very intentional if he's going around with a essentially Mr. White or like that.
He kill switch, does that mean that he like is dead, or is his cortical stack still there? Is there something?
It wipes the stack.
So that instance of him is dead. I'm still getting used to everything.
Yeah. Whoever. What I imagine is that he had a fork, or he was a fork.
Oh.
He was given specific instructions, doing what he was told to do, and then once he'd done what his part, once he got caught by the two of you, bolted and triggered the kill switch.
Who might want us?
That's a great question, one that I'm hoping David can answer, since now we lack someone to interrogate.
Marco is goes like, oh, that's all kinds of fucked up.
Well, I trust that you all haven't been talking about being rich, but I mean,
No, man, I've just been talking about like aliens.
It could be a number of people if they caught wind of who you are. Could be maybe a corporation that's wanting to get an interview with fossils from centuries ago. Could be criminals interested in the information that you now have about old Earth history, or wanting to see what else you can offer them. It could be a very zealotous door-to-door backup insurance salesman. I don't know.
Well, I am certainly not enjoying the idea of space paparazzi showing up with freaking face dancers or whatever.
Well, typically, if someone again, you're not widely known to be relics of the past. There are more people that know about it than we'd like, but I mean, that information is going to be disseminated out eventually, because we have more and more people asking, who are the people we picked up? Are you infected? So it could have just been someone that was concerned, but I doubt it.
That seemed a bit more than just concerned.
No, absolutely.
Like he was twitchy but under control.
I got nothing out of him. He was like stone cold.
Well, now he really is. So. But I think the two of you and the rest of your companions, you've already let them know, I imagine.
I sent off a message to watch for stalkers.
Can't really do a whole security detail without letting more people know about your situation. So I think it's best that you all get a hold of whatever contacts you have available to you and try to get yourselves armed.
Mm-hmm.
Most people will to respect you when you have a pistol at your hip. If anything else, they're more likely to think twice. But I'll
I think it's time to pick up some arms.
Yeah, I'll at least get the two of you back to your cabin. Make sure you don't have any other visitors.
Appreciate it.
Let's go ahead.
I caught wind of it at least.
Don't. All right. So, going back to Osborne and Carly and technically Morgan. Technically.
Morgan's just a little quiet right now.
Yeah, just a little quiet right now. Were there any concerns about your unique condition that you wanted to examine, Osborne?
We're making this sound like there's this other thing. Is it something else that has somehow attached itself to me, or is it a part of me, or what exactly is this thing?
It's best to refer to it as a strain. It's its own form of what's called the Watts McCloud, as I'm sure the good doctor has told you. But the Watts McCloud itself has various strains. They have the architect, someone who's driven to build, the beast who's driven to kill. The xenomorph is a little strange, as your drives are very bestial in nature. Well, one of which is, in particular, is prowling and the hunt. Never really to necessarily catch something, but it's the process. That can get a little consuming if you overwork the Watts McCloud, I'll say. What most people refer to this in our circles is psi, the psionics or slights. So it'd be a psi slight, for example. These are your abilities to read the not necessarily read the minds, but get a better grasp of what someone is thinking, or even it gives you a slight heads up when it comes to operating things you may be unfamiliar with. They're useful, but if you overwork it, the strain tends to show itself more.
Right.
It's not necessarily fun to lose control like that.
I see. Is there something in particular I should expect outside of this prey drive, for lack of better terms?
If you let it get too bad, it will temporarily take control.
I see.
Some folks have been known to black out and find themselves in unusual situations. The architect is probably the more entertaining one to end up in, because they just wake up and they build something. The least entertaining one generally is the beast.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah. Number of folks have that variation, find themselves, if they get too stressed or overwork it, find themselves covered in blood and wallowing in a jail cell, typically. If not, they just end up finding themselves in cold storage not long after. Right, that's not a concept that you're necessarily familiar with. Cold storage isn't, instead of a physical jail, if someone does something bad enough, they just upload their mind into a digital hard drive in the hard drive and just have them sit there.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Some places like to avoid doing that, but other places are far too keen to do that instead.
I imagine so. So these psi abilities, as you put it there, not welcome in some places, from what I've been told. And I get the impression, even here among the swarm, it's still not necessarily accepted.
Most asyncs, as recalled, aren't necessarily welcome, because one of the few places a person can be private is inside their own head. We get to bypass that privacy.
Yeah.
Not to mention the stories that exist that aren't necessarily fictional of people being brainwashed or controlled by asyncs.
Right.
It's unfortunately not far from the truth. Not that many go out of their way to do that, but it definitely exists. And then there are some who, if they know the origin of it being viewed as being designated as an exurgent strain connected to the Titans, and that has its own complications. Most people think that you're a plant by Titans, depending on who you talk to. Just waiting to trigger based on a code word, kind of like a sleeper agent in those really old spy vids.
I see. Are there any places out there that are welcoming to folks like us that aren't going to, cut us open and try to dissect our brains?
This is probably the safest place you can be, but I still don't recommend. People look at you differently.
Right.
I've lived on here for a couple of years, and select few are aware of my condition. A good doctor is one of them, and Sarah Steele is another.
Of course.
Funny enough, she found out because she needed some help on something. I told her that I could get it solved, but she probably wouldn't want to ask questions. She asked questions anyway. She seemed all right with it.
Suppose it helps when you have a bit of a reputation already.
It does. But what the good doctor doesn't know is there is technically an organization that does welcome us to a degree. They're still a little hesitant because, we don't fully know what's going on. But, hey, welcome back.
Hey, sorry about the wait. Like I said, lost power. It took a while for internet to fully come back and everything.
You are good. I'll give you a quick recap. Because I moved the scene along, then we took a break, and then we came back, and we're going to continue with the async talk. Described what substrains are, essentially broke down what asyncs are, broke down that we're not necessarily welcomed by all people, but like on the swarm, people just typically look at you different.
Yeah. You got a text that we're being gang stalked?
Yes. You would receive that message here shortly.
For being what?
Gang stalked.
There wasn't a gang. It was just one person.
It feels organization-y.
Just normal stalked.
Just normal stock so far. No evidence that a larger group of people is behind it. It could just be one very devoted individual.
The evidence is my gut. Anyway, go on.
Source, believe me.
Yeah.
That's not evidence. That's just a reason to look.
But I'll start from the top on this. But there is an organization that does welcome us to a degree. I mean, we don't fully understand this exurgent virus strain. So they are like wary and try to keep a good eye on us and, make sure we don't go rogue. But they are definitely more open to working with us and talking with us to ace things overall.
Who is that organization?
They are known as Firewall.
That's someone I haven't heard of, right?
No, none of you have heard. You know what a firewall is, especially you working in the info security industry, but you never heard of an organization called Firewall.
Yeah.
They're kind of underground. They don't really, make themselves known, and some people treat them like the boogeyman. But they are a group that was founded around the principles of keeping transhumanity propped up and not letting another fall happen. As much as I probably shouldn't say this, we've nearly lost everything a couple times after the fall.
I mean, it's a precarious situation, so that makes sense.
Now, what the future of transhumanity looks like, there are internal debates about that. And it's its own organization, so it has its own problems with bureaucracy and dissenting opinions and sub-factions within. I'm not going to bore you with that. I am what is referred to as an agent. I'm a firewall agent. I'm not a proxy, but and I'm out there doing legwork every once in a while. I keep an eye on our more unsavory folks that exist here on the swarm to move around drugs or the criminal parts. I keep an eye on them.
The ones taking advantage of what the swarm is at the expense of the rest of it.
Yeah. I myself am aligned with one of the factions here, but that was when I first started. I needed to make money. I had useful skills and talents. They were willing to pay me. I worked with them, and then I got into contact with Firewall. So now my job is to keep an eye on them and do what I can elsewhere.
What's working for Firewall been like?
It's a lot. Like I know what I'm doing is she looks to Osborne doing good for the rest of transhumanity, but it's a small price to pay to keep everything going. It's not the most mentally healthy work because you kind of lose that illusion of security that everyone else gets to have.
I mean, I didn't really have that to begin with, to be honest.
Oh, well, you'll be in for a shock if they ever get you in on anything.
I'm sure.
I can show you the world start singing, and it's just trauma.
Yeah. And mind you, I haven't earned my canary. I've never been on an actual field operation, let me say that. But I have been, I'm probably what's labeled as an asset. Either field agents that need to get into contact with a criminal organization for information, or any agents that need to get aboard the ship. Like they come to me and I go to someone else. Either, like I said earlier, the only two people that know about my condition, well, that's not true. There's more people that know, but they're people I dearly trust. The people that you know that are familiar with our situation are Archimedes and the head of security, Sarah Steele.
That makes sense.
So whether or not you want to let your companions know, up to you. They don't have any of the attached baggage that the rest of folks on board have, whether it be old spy movies that tell them that that we can rewrite someone's mind, and which, I mean, technically speaking, we kind of can, very temporarily. Or if they think we're sleeper agents for the Titans waiting to just turn on them at a moment's notice. But from what we can tell, that's not the case.
I feel like the Titans wouldn't need sleeper agents that badly.
And that's the part that's scary. Is they didn't, but then they disappeared when they were unequivocally winning.
Yeah, that's what I'm still trying to parse. I can't think of any reason why they would have left.
No one else has been able to find a reason.
I mean, it's not that if they just changed their mind and wanted to stop killing us, then I assume their exurgent threats of any kind wouldn't be threats anymore. So that probably didn't happen.
Depending on who you talk to, they could say that the super intelligence reached a point where they developed a consciousness. I find that to be hilarious.
But a consciousness or a conscience?
Conscience. My apologies.
Oh.
They got so smart that they, in their search to learn something, they learned emotions. I think that's hilarious. What I think, and a portion of Firewall thinks, is they reached a point in which they no longer had to expend effort. Where if left to their own devices, we were just going to eventually fade. With what they've left and what they've done and what they could tell with their super intelligence, they predicted that we're operating on a time clock. Eventually,
go extinct on our own.
Yep, that they no longer had to do anything. Others think that they got bored. Others think that they collected what they need to go and try to develop their own form of civilization, as twisted as that could be. Others think that they killed and ate each other and no longer exist. We don't know.
Given what they are and the level they seem to function on, I'm not really under any illusions that it's anything I would understand very easily off the bat.
Yep.
Or be able to come up with on my own as a theory.
But, like I said, the cynical part of me says they did the math and we were due to put ourselves down. But
makes sense.
The transhumanity and humanity as a whole is resilient. You can't necessarily you can't exactly teach something creativity.
Yeah.
When put into dire circumstances, I mean, looking at the broad strokes of human history, we found ways to come back. Our planet was doomed by the damage done during the global warming. And as the ice caps melted and melted and melted, everyone thought that we were doomed, but creative minds found other solutions.
I'm surprised someone let them. That was a lot of the issue back during our time, that there were plenty of people in different scientific fields who were able and willing to figure out how to solve global warming. They just weren't given the chances they needed
And that's
due
what,
to combinations of government and corporate interests.
oh, and that's likely what gave rise to the Argonaut faction.
Who are they again?
Techno-progressive. They use technology to solve injustices and inequalities. They likely, in the wake of desperate change needing to be made, they got together and acted independently of government organizations, or influenced government and corporate and organizations enough with their technology to make things happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that worked out.
I mean, it did.
Kind of.
And
It stopped
same,
everyone from having an AI race and making Titans, I guess.
yeah, the same minds that
each other.
solved one issue created another.
Something here about what science could do, should do. Artificial life finds a way.
Yeah. But I mentioned this organization. These are people that, at the end of the day, wanting to keep transhumanity rolling. They don't like the idea of extinction. So they do what they can to kind of just keep things moving.
Seems good, I guess. I mean, I assume the intent is good, at least. I don't know how has it gone so far?
I mean, it goes fine.
Does it say it's ethical and everything?
Yeah, the ethics is weird. You have to sometimes look at the bigger picture. If that means that you have to space a entire habitat because it's been infected with the Uzumaki virus, rather than that way you can keep all of transhumanity or several other stations from getting infected with such a thing.
Fractal one.
Yeah. That's sometimes what you got to do. There's a lot of folks there that their main goal is the bigger picture, and will argue to death that the end justifies the mean. If that end is the continuation of our civilization, then the means are whatever it takes. But there are dissenting opinions where it's like, where do we lose ourselves in that process where we just fighting to survive? Do we just become the animals that the Titans thought we were or treated us? Or it has nuance and it's its own discussion within the faction. What I do know is that Firewall would find the information that you and yours have about old Earth useful.
Is that a good thing for us, or we're going to get disassembled kind of thing?
No, you're not going to get disassembled. If they wanted you disassembled, you wouldn't have woke up in bodies.
Oh, okay.
But with the information about the past that you guys have, you hold the potential to shake things up, which makes you an unknown. And they'd like to be able to factor in that unknown. Whether or not they know what you're doing with that information that you hold, whether or not you're willing to share that information, whether or not someone nabs you up and uses that information for their own ends, that's when the two of you get the message about the other two getting stalked. Then
Wait, who gets the message and who's getting stuck?
you and Osborne get the message about Mako and Matt being stalked by a aggressively nondescript person.
Well, that ain't good.
Yeah, I got the same message, I think.
Everything all right?
Well, speaking of us being nabbed by somebody.
Yes, it sounds like there was some stranger approached two of our friends, and sounds like they opted out before letting themselves get caught.
Really?
Yeah.
What does the message actually say? That's part of what I was going for.
That we were being stalked, that they were being stalked, and they did eventually find the guy, but some kind of kill switch was involved.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they can't fuck with the cortical stack. It's been erased.
Yeah.
Sure. All right.
Which is a worrying little sign, yes. Just
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal.
Come to think of it, would working with Firewall actually provide an extra layer of safety from other unsavory groups?
Not necessarily. Firewall is an underground organization. You don't exactly say, hey, I'm part of Firewall. Don't fuck with me. I mean, you can. They're going to look at you, point at you, and laugh, say you're insane. Again, we take efforts to be secretive.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like, if I get kidnapped or something, is there a higher likelihood that I'll be rescued because they would know about it with connections and such?
Efforts would definitely be expended, as you would be marked as higher tier assets.
Well, it's something, I suppose.
Additionally, they have their own rep.
Different way?
They have their own rep. So, swing your influence around a little bit and get some help where you need it.
Yeah.
And they're not just interested in the two of you, they're interested in your whole group. Don't know if you want to necessarily talk with them about that. But as the two of you are afflicted, you were the easiest point of contact to start out with.
Well, it definitely sounds like a good conversation to have.
I'd be more than willing to have that conversation with them rather than you have to be the one to ferry that message along if you'd like. But are there... never mind that for now. You came here looking for help, and here I am asking if you wanted a job. What else did you want to know about A6?
About what is the approximate limit of the kinds of abilities we could have? I mean, how far does it go?
Well, that answer is complicated. For the most part, most folks afflicted ended up having what is called psi chi slights. These are, for the most part, just things that are always going. They modify the person's behavior just a touch, or they get a little bit of insight here and there. Some people, they just do math faster. They're the ones that can pass off as the most normal. Other things you could do would be psi gamma. This is more where you start reading people's minds or touching someone and inflicting pain. Or to a certain degree, you don't even have to touch them. If you just think enough negative thoughts, it's like they've been stabbed. So if you think about stabbing someone enough, you may actually stab them.
Try to be careful about that just in case.
I would recommend it. Then there are ones that if you have them, you stop. The Watts McCloud isn't necessarily what you got. These are other things that are infected could have what are known as psi epsilon slights.
What do those do?
These are usually things that start hurting people en masse. You could generate a field of anti-electronics, so nothing that's electronic will just work. And you could sit there and just synth morphs and pod morphs just turn off around them. A basilisk aura, an aura of light and sound emits from you. Cryokinesis, just being able to control ice. Pyrokinesis. I mean, it is cool, but usually you're not you. You are a monster that's... Yeah, you're a monster that wants to sit there and inflict pain and misery.
That part's less appealing. It sounds like... Oh, my bad.
How common are folks like us?
That's kind of a loaded question. For the most part, individuals that are asyncs were part of the Lost Project. Kids that were taken in by a corporation during the fall and were put through accelerated time frames to sit there and make them grow up faster and be productive members of society and just kind of bypass the growing up process. Just get them there in accelerated symbol space. It didn't work out.
Get people into the workforce even faster.
Well, that was part of it, but this happened not long after the fall, where the idea was these were people who would be less vulnerable mentally. Get them to grow up faster. They can not only be a part of the workforce, but now you don't have to worry about the growing up part of growing up. You just put a baby in a pod for 9 months and mentally they're an adult by the end of it, and then they can just leave them into an adult body. That was the plan. That's why Futura morphs were made. And they were designed specifically for that purpose. Being able to handle the stress of coming out of symbol space after such a long time of not interacting with the real world.
Yeah, I was looking at one of those.
They're nice. It's actually she gestures to herself, the one I have on right now. But things didn't work out right. When you teach kids that there are no consequences to their actions from day to day and that nothing is permanent, they start finding different ways to stimulate their imagination. And
someone else was telling us about that.
Yeah, and
I just. Oh, sorry.
Typically what would happen to members of the Lost Project like myself is they would start out fine. Suddenly one kid decides that they want to cause trouble. And typically in, most stories about school, they want to start trouble. They make a paper airplane or spit wad and throw it or spit it across the room. In the Lost Project, what that kid would do is they'd fashion a shiv and then stick the kid in the neck next to them. And that's how it started.
Sure.
They did what they could to kind of mitigate these. Would they make it to where people didn't feel, where they stopped feeling pain? Well, that just made it to where kids got more creative and made it gruesome. They made it to where, okay, well, what are they wanting to see? What's activating the stimulus for them? All right, well, let's change the color of like blood or like sensors, like organs and such. That way, when the kids sit there and draw and quarter another kid, you don't see anything. They instead found ways that it's like, well, we just have to not kill them then. So then we get tortured or would torture, depending on who you were, until the day ended. Everything got reset. Everybody who died got re-resed and started the next day of school. On the outside, it was 3 months. On the inside, 12 years.
Yeah, that's a little bit different from most people's messed up school experiences. I'm really sorry you had to go through that.
Well, I do my damnedest not to think about it. But what is consistent is that a number of folk from that project came out with the Watson Cloud. Where's the correlation to how that happened? We don't know. There are people that are looking into it, but they've been looking into that for about 15 years now.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that the infection vector for Watson Cloud isn't exactly normal.
No, and that's what interests Firewall greatly about the two of you in particular.
It interests me too, to be honest.
Because the options become, you were infected by the technology that's already aboard this ship when we were uploading your mind, which has its own terrifying connotations.
Yeah.
But we scanned those, and I think we can effectively rule that out. When your ship was destroyed out of Atmo, they went through and the Titans infected you for one reason or another, or whatever had that virus or is the cause for that virus triggered and infected you, or exsurgent viruses have been around since your time. Of the three options that I've presented to you, one of those is more terrifying than the other, but I mean, that is information that would be useful to know.
Yeah.
There was always theories, even back in our time, where there were thoughts and suspicions of people with psychic powers and such were not necessarily dismissed out of hand, but people always wondered, and there were theories and rumors about, government type projects involving those sorts of things.
Yeah, and I mean that'd be that information. There's another thing that interests Firewall. The two of you are your own source of valuable information, but I mean your entire group. You have a window into the past that cannot be afforded to anyone else. you lived in.
Yeah.
There are people that are willing to pay top dollar for old news recordings pre-fall.
Oh, damn, really?
Yes.
I mean, I don't have any of those, but
We're talking hundreds of
you can
thousands
answer questions.
of credits just for minute, 2-minute clips of news recordings regarding basic information. If it was more widespread and more impactful, the better. There's actually a number of clips. There's a collector out there. He collects tragedies that happened, like national tragedies, things that shocked and shook a nation. He has
Interesting niche.
I think he's a psychologist, and he tries to understand like the effect of trauma on a national level to the growth of a nation and how it functions. His two prize collections are a FDR, referring to an attack on Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then most of the databases at the time just refer to it as 9/11.
That's mostly what we referred to it to back in the day.
So those are all concepts for the most part forgotten by society these days. But the gentleman that I'm referring to is a avid collector of historical vids and documentation, and would love insight on that. Firewall's primary concern with what happens with all of you is whether or not someone tries to abuse the information you have or use you to change a narrative.
Yeah, I suppose if they talk to us and could definitively prove they talked to us, they could kind of say whatever they wanted and just say that they got it from us, right?
Correct. If your status is made aware to the system at large, all of you could get pretty famous and have many questions leveled at you for fame and or fortune, but I don't think you have to worry about that last part.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about being famous for that quite yet, but
Another thing I should probably warn you about. Accounts like yours often were used by criminal organizations to sit there and have just access to a lot of money on hand just readily, especially more info-based ones. The account that stemmed from got drained. So people may be trying to figure out where all their money went.
Oh, like the money that we have now was pulled from someone else when our currency was transferred over?
Well, more than likely, they saw a bank account that didn't have a lot of activity and was just like, oh, well, we can just sit there and take and put in what we need. And no one's going to think twice about this large amount of money being moved around.
Yeah.
And
What should we
suddenly,
do about that?
suddenly it got emptied. So, I mean, they're not stealing your money anymore or moving anything through your accounts anymore.
Oh, I get you. Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you meant that we would look like we were doing something illegal and have suspicion leveled at us. But okay, so our accounts were previously used and somebody might be
Upset
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. People likely used it as a shadow fund. Who those people were, I expect them to be criminals because, I mean, it's part of what I do. But typically, we just put it through multiple bank accounts that look like a number of transactions. It's more work and more stuff that can get tracked, but that's more places that we can stop it from being tracked, especially if we. I'm rambling. It's one account with a lot of money. Doesn't get looked at too often, but when that one account closes for one reason or another, you lose access to that money. There's not a lot you can do.
Yeah, so we're good financially, like our accounts are safe, but somebody might be upset about losing their access to what we had before.
Correct.
For their operations. But I guess they would be able to figure out where it went eventually and figure out where we are, right?
Yep. And then, we're autonomous. That's as long as you didn't do anything too fucked up. They don't mind if you forecast in, but as long as you don't cause trouble for everybody and don't violate other people's freedom, the autonomists are generally cool with it.
Yeah. Should we worry about someone coming for us and causing problems for the rest of this world?
Oh, well, I originally was going to say no, but based on the message you got, I don't know if I can answer that honestly at this point. Someone has taken an interest in you, someone who is willing to forecast in, get a kill switch installed on a morph, go through the painstaking process of making it nondescript and having it follow around some of your friends.
Yeah.
Call a spade, that is suspicious as fuck.
Oh, definitely. Well, as far as I can tell, it seems like we have the resources available to us to be ready in whatever ways we can, but I don't want to just sit and wait for someone to try something either.
Nope. And that's why I would recommend that if you do not have a gun, buy one.
Yeah, I'll look into it. Somebody talked to us about it the other day.
Yeah, I thought I heard something about that. Name it was. He calls himself Poppy. Poppy Pablo. One of the few folks here that still trades in credits and hard cash.
Yeah, convenient for us at least.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'll be sure to be paying him a visit here very soon.
I might need some help learning how to actually use the gun well if you have the time, Osborne, and don't mind.
I can see about teaching you at least the basics.
Cool.
But here's my information, and see if you get a message. And if you want to talk with your group about Firewall and want to learn more, stop by. Give me some warning that you're going to come by, unless it's like dire.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely message you before that. I don't really like just knocking on people's doors without telling them.
But and then feel free to message me if you got any questions that come up.
Yeah. How secure is this messaging anyway? If I wanted to ask about Firewall, should I do that in person?
I recommend doing that in person. It's fairly secure. I go out of my way to make sure it's secure. But there are things I can't really reveal to you without you being a part of the group, of the end group. But the lines are fairly secure. That doesn't stop someone from either slipping by or getting lucky.
Yeah, I know it's never perfect. I'm just not. I'm still getting up to date on today's technology, so
Yeah, I mean,
I wanted to ask to make sure.
there are ways that we can be more secure, but yeah, you gotta agree to it first.
Yeah, that's fine. I think like I'm I'm leaning in the yes direction, but it's not something I want to jump into quickly. So
I understand. It's a lot. I threw a lot at you. I understand completely. But
it seems like something that could help me satisfy a lot of personal curiosity as well. So the mutual benefit seems good.
no, you go whenever you'd like. Have a good one.
Okay, thanks. Me too.
And definitely tell she didn't know how to end this meeting.
Yeah.
Who does though, really? Just Midwest goodbye. Be here for like 4 more hours.
God, yeah. There's always the and thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
And
No one even know what a TED Talk is anymore. We're gonna say that to somebody, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck are you talking?"
that's a Ned Talk.
Yeah.
And I think with that, it's about 11:30. We'll wrap it up there. Questions, comments, suggestions. Everyone have fun.
Yeah.
Can't wait for someone to correct me on an old world beam at some point.
Oh yeah.
No, you know nothing.
It's pronounced GIF.
I will fight you.
They die.
But no, did any questions or comments? I know that we didn't get the part that I thought we would get to today, but things happen. But I hope I still kept everybody engaged.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a slow burn while we do a lot of lore dumps on the setting.
I'm
Sorry, I disappeared.
No, you're fine, and not your fault. You can definitely. I'm still I'm applying pressure to the gas though.
Yeah. No, I get that with the gang stalking. And you cannot prove to me that it's not gang stalking. We're definitely.
I've never heard someone say
I'm
it
seeing
like
that stuff is happening.
Neither do I. Yeah, like stuff. I'm. Things are still happening. Things are moving while you guys are getting up to speed.
Yeah.
But unless there's anything else, I want to thank everybody for listening and hope you tune in on the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
I hope so too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.